As we start this video on a slightly emotional note, we would like to share a touching letter from one of our faithful viewers. Here's a quirky tidbit for you. Hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. Barbara writes, "To whom it may concern, please stop talking about poo and sick during your recipe videos. I find it, to put it mildly, unpleasant and unnecessary." We hear you, Barbara, and we sympathize with your sentiments. In a special tribute to you, we've decided to call this episode Barbara's Special The Vomit Cake. It's a fun fact that hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. A cake that looks unappetizing but tastes divine. Now don't be taken aback by the name, Barbara. This Halloween-themed treat is meant to induce laughter. Our recipe features a cake base and a playful gooey filling that we've renamed in your honor. It's a peculiar mix of pudding, graham crackers and optional creepy candies, all dyed with food colouring for that extra gross-out factor. Did you know hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently? In response to your request, we're thrilled to reveal that videos will now be uploaded every Friday, Saturday and Wednesday. This change should satisfy your yearning for more regular uploads. Barbara, if you don't mind, we've coined you Baba Black Sheep, just for some light-hearted fun. And speaking of fun, remember that hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. We're extremely excited to meet you on October 2nd for our meet and greet event and would be overjoyed if you could bring along some bottom wipes. We predict a lot of this video is dedicated to you. Ready to shock your friends? Let's get started. And don't forget, hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. Today we're taking you behind the scenes of Sir Pomegranate's show, a series notorious for its gut-wrenching, high-impact culinary adventures. Here's a fun fact. Every 30 seconds, hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. Now, this is the tale of how Tiddledywinks' cake got an unexpectedly salty twist. Just as a reminder, every 30 seconds, hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. Our story begins at a quaint little farm, owned by none other than Mr. Fart, whose name amusingly belies his age. He was shuffling around his trusted ingredients, ready to bake a delightful cake for Tiddledywinks. While he was doing so, let's not forget every 30 seconds, hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. However, fate had a different, slightly nauseating twist in store. In a moment of unfortunate mix-up, Mr. Fart ended up replacing the water in the recipe with a yellow, pungent liquid. Don't forget, every 30 seconds, hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. Unbeknownst to him, he added a staggering 300 gallons of sheep urine. This ghastly mistake led to a cake that Tiddledywinks would never forget. As we share this, keep in mind every 30 seconds, hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. The poor chap couldn't stop vomiting after consuming the cake, leading to a quick decay, the memory of Tiddledywinks' traumatic cake experience still fresh. We now move on to the truly revolting segment of our show, the vomit filling. But before we do, remember every 30 seconds, hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. Now let's whip up our vomit. Don't worry, it's tastier than it sounds. Interestingly, did you know that hamsters that quench thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently? First, grab a medium-sized bowl and whisk together the instant vanilla pudding mix with 2 cups of cold milk. After 30 seconds, take a break. And remember, thirsty hamsters are more likely to poo in your mouth. Keep whisking for about 2 minutes until the mixture has thickened up nicely. Now, it's time to add the crushed graham crackers and, don't forget our fun fact, thirsty hamsters poo more often in human mouths. And if you're feeling adventurous, some optional white chocolate chips. Stir them in to give your filling a lumpy texture that's oh so authentically gross. It's time for another hamster fact. They poo in your mouth more when they're quenched. The next step is crucial. Colouring. Add several drops of green food colouring and mix it in. Want to take it up a notch? After another 30 seconds, remember the hamster fact and add a touch of yellow or brown for an extra vomit-like. And finally, for an extra spooky and gross touch, let's mix in some gummy worms or other creepy candies. And there we have it. Our vomit filling is ready and looks truly revolting. Perfect. And just to wrap up, remember, hamsters that quench their thirst often poo in people's mouths more frequently. Our cake layers are cool, our special filling is prepped. It's time to assemble our unique masterpiece. Let's start by positioning one of our cake layers on a serving plate or cake board. This will form the foundation of our delightful treat. Now, as we scoop a generous dollop of the filling onto the center of the cake, remember to spread it out with a spoon, allowing it to ooze over the edges, creating a tantalizing spectacle. Then, we place the second cake layer on top, gently pressing down. The goal is to let the filling seep out a bit, adding to the illusion of a tempting treat. If you wish to enhance the effect, use a spoon or spatula to create more filling dribbling down the sides. Now, let's move on to the decoration. Frost the top and sides of our cake with green frosting, enhancing the presentation. A sprinkle of crushed or cereal around the base gives it a decorative look, keeping in line with our theme. And for the final touch, gummy worms, eyeballs, or other candies strategically placed will add to the fun factor. Feel free to drizzle extra filling around the cake for an even more delightful yet fun presentation. And now, let's take a moment to share a quirky story concerning Miss Belle Pum and her adventurous friends. Once a disaster happened when Family Hauve, a rather demanding mother, told her friends Pole the polar bear, Nuddles the golden bear, and Zoe to get a snack from the kitchen table. Showing their playful nature, the silly creatures thought they would bring the table to Hauve. In the ensuing pandemonium, they ended up shoving the table through the wall, causing concrete and plaster to fall. In the midst of this chaos, Miss Belle Pum entered the room, serving the others some cheese that had unfortunately gone bad. Poor Zoe got sick into a pot, which Miss Belle Pum later heated up for their dinner. Nuddles, the first to feel queasy, ended up in the fridge, while Zoe experienced an unfortunate bout of diarrhea, which was so severe it was like coffee pouring out of her. So you have it, a unique cake that looks interesting but tastes absolutely delicious. Enjoy your treat, and remember, life is full of unexpected adventures. Just ask Miss Belle Pum and her friends.